Hello everyone, today we're going to be making a Pacman game using Scratch, and in this tutorial we're going to be making different sprites and the backdrops. So we don't need that, and we don't need the Scratch cat. So let's paint a new sprite. So this sprite is going to be Pacman, and for Pacman we need two different costumes. One is Pacman with his mouth closed and one is Pacman with his mouth open. So first let's make him with his mouth closed. Let's zoom in a bit. Okay, that's good. So now we're going to use the circle tool, and let's choose a nice yellow color. So something like this. Yeah, I think that's a good color. We don't need an outline. And if you didn't know already, you can draw a perfect circle by holding down Shift and draw the circle. And there you go, you have a perfect circle. Let's move it to the center. And let's name him Pacman Closed. So we have our first costume, and now we need to make Pacman with his mouth open. So let's paint a new costume. So we want Pacman with his mouth open to be the same size as Pacman with mouth closed. So we're going to copy and paste the circle. Let's just zoom in a bit. Now we need to create the mouth. So I think the best way to do this is to probably erase the mouth. So let's choose a size, something like 7. So I think the best way is to just erase the mouth. So something a bit like this. I mean, it's definitely not perfect, but I think it's the best way to make Pacman's mouth. So let's name him Pacman Open. Okay, so we have our first sprite. Let's just name him Pacman. And now we need to create something that Pacman can eat while moving in the maze. So we're going to create those yellow collectible things. This should be fairly easy because we just need to draw a perfect circle. Remember holding down Shift. So this may seem ridiculously huge, but we're gonna fiddle around with the sizes a bit later. Let's name it Yellow Collectible. So now we need to create the ghost, so something that can chase Pacman. So let's paint another sprite. So for the ghost, we want to split it into two parts. So one is the head and one is the body. So first we need to create the head. So you can choose any color you want for your ghost. Of course, we're going to be making more a bit later, but I'm going to start off with red. I would advise not to start off with yellow as your first ghost, since it might get a bit confusing. But I'm going to start off with red. So we need to first create the head, and for the head, we just need to create a perfect circle. So hold down Shift and create the circle. And let's make it a lot bigger. So we have our head. Now we need to create the eyes for the ghost. So we're going to make it completely white. Yeah, I think that's a good size for the eyes. And you move it about there. Now let's just copy and paste it and put it somewhere here. Okay, so we have the outline for our eyes. And we just need to create the inside of the eyes. So hold on Shift and make something a lot smaller. And we just move it into the circle. And let's copy and paste it and do the same with the other one. So you can see here that I'm also using the arrow keys to move around the eyes a little bit better. So you can use the arrow keys to move the eyes, to move things around. So now we need to create the body. So we're just going to create a rectangle, and has to be able to fit the circle. So we might need to fill around a bit with the sizes here. Let's make it a bit thinner. Okay, now we need to work with the sizes of the ghost head. So something like that. Doesn't look too bad. Now we're gonna zoom in right onto the bottom of the ghost. So we need our eraser tool now, and we want to create those spikes on the ghost. So we need a very big eraser, something like 20, and you can just place your eraser in a good position. In fact, let's make it a bit smaller, 15. So you can just place the eraser in a good position and tap. So let's move a bit to the side. Just do the last one. So something a bit like this. That's roughly what it should look like. And let's name it Ghost. Okay, so we've finished making our 3 sprites. The sprites we need, the characters we need for the game. Now we need to create the maze that Pacman can move around. Pacman and the ghost can move around in. So let's go to backdrops. And we're going to create the maze now. So we want to make lots of rectangles, and I'll explain a bit later why. So first we're going to choose a nice dark blue color. And if we just zoom in a bit. So we have to just draw, no fill. We have to make dark blue outline. So we're just going to create 2. In fact, let's make this a lot bigger, something like 10. Let's just make 2 rectangles to start off, right in the middle. And we're just going to create another rectangle. Move it a lot further apart. So we have our first 2 rectangles. Let's just move this one a bit further. Now we need to create a bigger rectangle. So something a bit like this. And then we need to create one more rectangle like that. So you can create as many rectangles as you want, but I'm just gonna stick with 4 rectangles for now. So it doesn't look much like a maze, and we need some doorways for Pacman to go through. So before we create the doorways, we're just gonna create a big black rectangle, which is gonna be our background. And let's move it right to the back. So now it looks more like a Pacman setting. But it doesn't look much like a maze. So we need to use the paint tool. And we need to make the size something like 60. So 60. And now we can just paint a few doorways inside the maze. So we can just put doorways throughout the whole maze. So you can spend a bit more time than I am spending on the maze, because I'm just doing this quite quickly. So you can see that it's starting to look a lot more like a proper maze. Let's just create one there. Yeah, so it looks a lot more like a maze. Of course, this is a bit simple. You can spend a lot more time than I have on this. And let's just name it maze. Okay, so we have our first backdrop done. Now we need to create the backdrop so that when Pacman dies, it will show. We have to make the backdrop of game over, so when Pacman dies, the game will switch to that backdrop. So let's paint another backdrop. So all we need to do is we just need to draw a black rectangle. It has to cover the whole screen, remember. So you can check this cover the whole screen by looking at these borders. So these white lines are the borders of the screen, and essentially you want to make it a bit bigger so that you know that you've definitely covered the whole screen. Now we need to create some text inside the rectangle. So let's make it a nice green color. Let's just say something like game over. But I don't really like this font, so I'm gonna change it to something like Pixel is quite good. And let's make it a lot bigger and place it right in the middle. And let's just name it game over. And that's the last backdrop that we need. And that's the end of this tutorial. Thanks for watching.